Senator, I want to talk politics.
Yes.
First off, you got into it because you wanted to give back, and you started off at a very local level.
100%. I started on county council. I mean, that is as local as it gets, except for the school board. Went to the State House next and spent 2 years in the State House. It was a very short amount of time in the State House. I realized very quickly that while that was a great experience, I wanted to do something different. And so I was going to run for lieutenant governor. And I started running for lieutenant governor, and every place I went around the state, they said, you shouldn't run for lieutenant governor, you should run for Congress. He said, everything you're speaking about is a federal issue, not a state issue.
You're there a couple of years, and then all of a sudden Senator Jim DeMint says, I'm going to retire right away.
Right.
Governor Nikki Haley has to quickly fill that spot.
Yes. I found myself in a position I had never even dreamt of being, becoming a United States Senator for the great state of South Carolina. I never even dreamed that that was possible.
And the historic nature of you being named as an African American in South Carolina, what role does that have in you saying, I have to make the most of this?
Well, I think I'm burdened by history in many ways, meaning that so many times the conversation starts off about the first African American senator from the South. Blessing and curse at the same time. My theory is I'm not called to serve black people. I'm just called to serve Americans. I think it says a lot about our country, and it says a lot about South Carolina that they chose me and then elected me to be their senator. I like talking about the evolution of the Southern heart, because the state I live in is not the state that my grandfather was born in, not the state that my mother was born in, even though both are called South Carolina. This South Carolina is different. We have evolved so much in so little time that access to real opportunity, being judged by your character and not your color, is my reality.
You'll talk about race. You'd rather not.
Absolutely.
You rather not, even though it's necessary, but you rather talk about the issues in your party and the country.
I prefer just to be one of 100, to be one person representing a state and the nation, not the black guy, but just the guy. But that's not my plight, and I'm okay with that. I've embraced it, but I also like talking about people who've been marginalized. And disproportionately, a lot of African Americans have had that experience. But in South Carolina, that's true for my rural folks as well. Rural South Carolina has been without representation. Rural America has been without representation.
What did you and what do Republicans learn, if anything, from now Governor-elect Youngkin's campaign?
Well, I've been trying to say it for a long time, and he just did it. Happy warriors attract a bigger crowd. That politics is a game of addition. That talking about education is something that we as Republicans should always focus on. Having parental involvement is key. I've talked about the importance of school choice and education equality for a long time. He has run on those issues that resonate with the average person in this country. If we were to win in 2022 and beyond, we're gonna have to just talk plain English to our folks. And when we do, when we champion the causes that they believe in the most, we're gonna be okay.
Senator, when you look at your career, one thing that stands out that people took notice is when you had the rebuttal to the State of the Union address. What was it about that speech and your delivery that worked?
I think it was just being authentically and sincerely myself. I honestly think that America's hungry for some good news. I think America's hungry to hear the truth, that while we have an original sin, we are not a racist country. That fighting discrimination with discrimination is wrong. I think America wants to remember that the greatest dreams of our people doesn't happen in Washington. It happens in everyday places all over the country, on both sides of the proverbial track. I think just sharing that truth of who we are and the progress we've made and the hurdles that remain, I think it was at the right time.
And it was counter to what the president was saying. The president had a totally different message.
Absolutely. His was more of a collectivist mentality that one day somehow, if we redivide all of our resources, you'll get your fair share. That's just wrong. That somehow, President Trump did a good job when he said, America will never be a socialist country. Biden has been leading in the opposite direction. This is the divide where people like me can step in and fill. Because I've seen the government come in with good intentions to help people, but it just made you a little more comfortable in your poverty, never an escape route. We on the right, we provide the escape route.